Go to Wellington now. Giles Beckford's on Checkpoint as well, coming in live from the Wellington studio with a magnificent shirt on there, Giles.
It was team colours today, John.
Yeah, I like them. The Governor of the Reserve Bank, Graham Wheeler, speaking today about the risk confronting the bank.
Indeed, it was a grandly titled speech, some thoughts on the balance of risks around the Reserve Bank's monetary policy setting. Of course, we were all on our edge when we saw that. But all I can say is that it was pretty dry stuff. It didn't signal any policy changes. It didn't really offer us anything new. It said that the balance of risks were actually quite even. On the one hand, there's the uncertainty to the downside about what might happen if Donald Trump goes protectionist, and that leads to a slowdown in the world economy. On the other side, on the upside risks, we might see more inflation as a result of Donald Trump spending more money. A hot housing market continues. So all in all, it's a balanced outlook from Graham Wheeler, which I suppose is a signal that don't expect anything on the interest rate front from the bank when it meets again in 3 weeks' time. But the people at the BNZ said Mr. Trump, well, sorry, not Mr. Trump, Mr. Wheeler was perhaps so balanced that in fact he was unbalanced. And they think he's actually underestimating the threat on the upside, the inflation pressures that may grow. And of course the bank did signal in February that interest rates are likely to be on hold perhaps until late 2019, possibly even 2020. Now the BNZ people are thinking that in fact Mr. Wheeler is underestimating the risks on the upside, and we might be seeing interest rate rises possibly as soon as early next year, by the middle of next year certainly. So we'll wait and see on that one. But as one of my colleagues here remarked, goodness me, rates could go up, rates could go down. What's so hard about being a Reserve Bank governor?
Did they really say goodness me, Giles, or was that were you?
No, that's me being really reasonable about it. Somebody actually also characterised the speech as being boring as batshit, but I'm afraid you can't use that term as an official monetary policy.
And no, you can't, and we won't.
Exactly.
Thanks, Giles. Donald Trump, he seems to have been responsible for Wall Street exuberance after his speech yesterday.
Indeed. Well, as we were saying, it was long on rhetoric but scant on details. But when you cast your mind back to your days as a baby share broker, you'll remember the phrase, buy the rumour, sell the fact. And Wall Street seems to be just doing that, which is they're buying the prospects of greater growth and spending, which will be mean higher interest rates. That's good for banks, that's good for infrastructure companies. Of course, nobody actually has the details yet. We don't know how we will possibly pay for it, but never mind, let's go on a whirl. And another thing that's adding to a bit of froth for Wall Street, which just burst through the 21,000 level on the Dow Jones Index, and it was only a few weeks ago it hit 20,000, but then is the forthcoming share float of a company called Snapchat. Now, you and I are far too old to know about these things, but apparently it's a messaging system used by pimply teenagers and some sad 20-year-olds where they send pictures of themselves or things that they're doing, and those pictures almost just disappear before you get a chance to look at them. It's floating on the stock exchange in the United States. It has been valued at close to 28 billion New Zealand dollars. Now, just imagine that, 28 billion. That's about 10% of what our economy is worth, just off the top of my head. It's never turned a dollar. Not once, not made a profit anywhere. And some people are very sceptical whether it ever will. They think it might go the same way as Twitter. But as is the case in these sort of circumstances, where there's money to be made, a few will pocket zillions, a few will make a modest amount, and a lot of people will find themselves burnt. It lists tomorrow morning, our time. We'll wait and see whether the hype and the euphoria is justified.
Oh, I look forward to you reporting on that tomorrow night. Speaking of hype and euphoria, what did the markets do today?
Our own top 50, a much more modest 27-point rise to 7,176. The New Zealand dollar, 71.3 US cents and 93.2 Australian.
Thanks, Giles. Really appreciate it. Talk tomorrow. We'll have more on that Donald Trump speech a bit later in the program too.